Hello, welcome to another prepared flight. This time it's going to be on a Boeing 737-800. This is the PMDG 737NGX. This is going to be Delta Flight 1411 from Minneapolis to Portland. This is a real flight. This was April 1st at about 8 p.m. local time in Minneapolis. Vareck was actually on this flight a few nights ago, and he was stuck on the ground for about an hour and a half waiting for this thunderstorm to pass. But given that this is a flight simulator, I said, I bet we can take off and get out of Minneapolis, no problem, without waiting for the thunderstorm to pass. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So let's hop into the flight deck and get the show on the road. So first, we're powered up, we're on ground power, but we do need to get the inertial reference units on and aligning. And there they go, perfect. So our flight plan today, like I said, this is Minneapolis, KMSP to Portland International, KPDX. We're going to cruise at flight level 360. We have zero fuel weight's about 127,000 pounds. We are going to bring a couple hours extra fuel, just because of the weather. Who knows what's going to happen, who knows how long we're going to be sitting here. So we have loaded up, we should see here, about 34,300 pounds of fuel. So that will be plenty to get us to Portland, plus a couple of hours if we need it. Right. A little thunder in the background there, that's nice. Okay, so we're 737-800, 26,000 pound engine thrust. Nav data is up to date, April 2nd to April 29th. We are at KMSP. We're at gate G22, just like the real flight was, but I suspect it's not in the database. Yep, no problem. Grab our GPS position. Looks reasonable and in sync. Alright, now the plane knows where we are. So our route, KMSP to KPDX, and to save having to key everything in, this is in the computer as a company route. So there we go. We are flight number Delta 1411. So our route is going to take us, we'll have a departure, standard departure out to Aberdeen, along Juliet 32 to DPR, then Juliet 16 to Pendleton. From Pendleton we will go to JK Knox, and then we'll have the arrival Hood 2 into Portland. Let's get our departure in there. So from Minneapolis, looks like we are expecting runway 30 left, and we're taking the Darwin 6 departure with the Aberdeen transition. So looking at our legs here, the Darwin 6, we expect vectors, and if I actually look at the chart, we expect radar vectors to intercept the 281 radial from the Minneapolis VOR, and then that'll take us to noon, and from there we just follow the departure. Alright, that looks good. We will activate that and go to performance initialization. So like I said, zero fuel weight, 126,800 pounds. We are carrying 3,800, 3.8 thousand pounds of reserve fuel. We'll fly this at a cost index of 3.5. And our cruising altitude this evening is flight level 360, which is almost exactly ideal. Average cruise wind is forecast to be 246 at 40. 246 at 40. Given that we are flying west and the winds are from the west, pretty steady headwind, which will slow us down a bit. IC deviation, almost standard. At top of climb, we're expecting temperature to be minus 55 degrees. Okay. Because of the thunderstorms, the potential heavy turbulence, we are not going to derate the takeoff. We're going to use full takeoff and climb power. And it will be a flaps 5 takeoff. Let's get some Minneapolis weather. Minneapolis ATIS is on 120.8. 0.8.
Minneapolis Airport information, Quebec 0201 Zuma. Wind 290 at 15. Visibility 8 in light rain. Sky conditions, ceiling 4000, broken. Severe thunderstorms in the area. Temperature 19er, 2.11. Altimeter 2952. ILS, runway 30, left and ILS, runway 30, right in use. Landing and departing, runway 30, left and runway 30, right. VFR aircraft, stay direction of flight. All aircraft read back, hold short.
So 2952 on the altimeter.
Contact you have Quebec.
Let's double check. Field elevation is 842 feet, so that is reasonable.
Wind 290 at 15.
Wind was 290
Sky conditions, ceiling 4000,
5.
broken.
And we expect a wet
Thunderstorms
runway.
in the area. Temperature 19er, 2.11. Altimeter 2952.
Thank you, weather person. Center of gravity, we're loaded at 21.9. So V speeds, V1, 129, rotate at 147, and V2 is 154. All reasonable numbers. Let's get the first officer's FMC over on our legs page here. Keep track of where we're going. So V2 154, we'll put that into the MCP 54. Heading runway 30 left. Runway heading is 301 degrees. We're going to limit our bank angle, again, due to potential turbulence. And yeah, let's say we're initially cleared up to 10,000, which is actually the first point of our departure. MRA, which is the minimum recommended altitude above 10,000. Okay. So that's it for the CDU pre-flight. Let's check the actual aircraft systems. That's all good. Yaw damper can come on. That's fine. Center fuel pumps are on because we do have fuel in the center pumps tonight because of all that extra fuel that we're carrying. Let's get the APU started up. Passenger emergency exit sights on. Passengers in their seats with the seatbelt signs. While we're waiting for the APU to come on, we can set our cabin pressurization. So we are going to fly at flight level 360 and land at Portland, which is, for all intents and purposes, 0 feet. Logo light on. What's the weather looking like outside? Still raining. Okay, there's the APU. We'll go to APU generator power. And the air conditioning packs can come on now. Window heat can come on. We won't need any anti-ice because despite the stormy conditions, it is rather warm tonight. Session of auto, we're on dual bleed, that's good. And cabin pressurization is set. Lighting panel is set. Auto brakes, we will arm for rejected takeoff. Fuel flow, we will reset and back to rate. Radios are set, transponders set. Alright, so radios, we are going to expect radar vectors to intercept radial 281 of the MSP VOR. The MSP VOR is 115.3, so we will tune that on nav 1. 115.3. Let's say, what do we want our transponder code to be tonight? 3221. Sure, why not? And that was radial 281, so we'll just dial in a course of 281 here. Okay, and turn on that VOR indication. There we go. So MSP VOR, that's what we're expecting. Looks good. So that is set. Altimeter is set. Transponder is set. Courses are set, V2 is set, runway heading is set, and initial altitude is set, so we'll turn the flight directors on. The clock is set, looks good, flight instruments are correct. Speed brake down, reverse thrust levels down, that's all good. Gear is down. Set the parking brake, and we can remove the wheel chocks. Okay, good to go. On the auto throttle, arm VNAV and LNAV. Taxi and takeoff briefings. Well, to taxi, we're at the Q gate, so we expect a short taxi to our right. Probably going to taxi down Bravo to Alpha 1 to runway 30 left. Takeoff and departure, we are going to climb initially runway heading of 301, and we are expecting ATC to assign us vectors to intercept the 281 radial from the Minneapolis VOR. From there, we are off on the Darwin 6 departure path. And let's say we've received our pushback clearance. Turn our fuel pumps on. We'll turn the electric hydraulic pumps on. The low pressure light should extinguish. There they go. And let's ask our friendly ground crew for pushback. Takeoff trim is 552.
Launching gear.
Okay, close enough.
Departure check completed. Flight has been inserted.
Anti-collision light on.
Release parking brakes. Commencing push.
And release
all
parking
engines
brake.
clear. Start that wheel.
start. Engine ignition packs off. Engine 2, ignition to ground. So for engine start, we're looking for N2 of 25%, at which point we'll introduce fuel. There's 25%. There's fuel flow. Oil pressure coming up. Rising. Stabilized, we'll start engine 1. Let's again launch for 25% on N2. Throw in some fuel. Fuel flow, oil pressure rising. Stabilized, turn the engine generators on. Propane can come on. Packs back to auto. Isolation valve auto. APU bleed off. And APU can go off. Engine start switches to continuous for takeoff. Set our takeoff flaps to 5. Check our flight controls. Full left, full right, neutral, full up, full down, neutral, and check the rudder after we are disconnected from the tug. Transponder, ready for taxi on the ground. Actually, if you don't forget when we take off, we'll just put it all the way to TIR. Recall. No cautions, no warnings.
Set parking brake.
Okay, parking brake set. Set the parking brake, right? Yeah.
Unlocking gear.
There we go.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass main removed.
rudder really quickly. Full right, full left. Very good. So let's get our taxi lights on. I think there's perfect. All right, let's taxi to the runway. So we need to make a hard right here. Join the taxiway. This will be a quick Bravo down to Alpha. I love how the rain just suddenly starts and suddenly stops. Not quite realistic. Away from the terminal building, we'll turn the weather radar on. Let's see what we're up against. Definitely storms to the east. Okay. Approaching 30 left here. And the rain's back. Okay. Let's get our strobes on. Landing lights on. Our transponder's already set. And as landing lights bright, we are cleared for takeoff. Button to start the clock. Sorry to find a button in the dark here. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. It's 33. Stabilized and toga. Really going in the center of the runway. Let's see what we can do about that. Knots, 80 knots. Lightning ahead.
V1. Rotate. V2.
Positive brake, gear up. Flaps 1. And this ATC gives us a heading of 267. Flaps up. Turbulence penetration, we are actually going to go with a speed of 280 on 0.78 for our climb. Flaps are auto brakes, can go back to off. Taxi lights can go off. We're going to leave the engines continuous ignition because of the rain. And gear switched off. Heavy rain here. And the super realistic rain vortex effect. And so we're now cleared direct to Indian. And cleared up to flight level 360. Look at all that. It's hard to tell in flight sim, but you can tell by the airspeed jumping around and the waviness of where we're flying. We are going through some turbulence here. Not surprising. In fact, we set the weather radar to display weather and turbulence. Wait for it to sweep here. Sweep. Yeah, all that magenta is turbulence. Fun stuff. Alright, passing 10,000 feet, we can turn the landing lights off. Again, we'll leave everything else as is, given the weather conditions. Let's take a look outside. Oh, yes. There you can see it's being bumped around a bit. Okay. And sudden disappearance of rain. We'll hit more here in just a minute. And there it is. This weather radar is accurate. When we hit that cell, we saw the rain pop up. progress. Looks good. There's the noon hiding amongst the weather. Pockets of weather up ahead of us. See that lightning below us. It's kind of cool. Alright, passing 18,000 to our standard. Presumably we will actually get above this. Also, this storm, when I was looking at the radar, when it was actually going on, talking to Vareck, it was sort of a vertical system that was just over Minneapolis about this time and blowing to the east. So once we get a little farther west, let's zoom out here. Once we get a little farther west, we will be past it. In fact, it looks like we're probably on the western extent of it now. Look at the weather radar. Alright, so we'll set the engine ignition off at this point. Once we got out of there, we didn't get blown over and crash and die and all that good stuff. So, yeah, I don't know why they made Vareck sit on the ground for an hour and a half waiting for the storm to blow over. That doesn't seem too bad from the comfort of my flight simulator here. It'll be an uneventful cruise on up to flight level 360, I'm guessing at this point. just passed waypoint Darwin. Our flight plan had us at 31.2 thousand pounds of fuel. We were at 30.9, and it estimated at 12 minutes, and our clock was exactly at 12 minutes. So far our flight plan is playing out nicely. Well, no need to bore you, just climbing up to 36,000 now. Once we are closer to Portland, we'll check back in. Talk to you later. Welcome back. We are 2.5 hours into the flight here, which puts us, let's see, it looks like we are 230 miles from Portland. We're just about to use the fuel in the center fuel tank up. So rather than pumping it dry, we will turn the pumps off. Otherwise, it's been a quiet, pretty smooth cruise. And since we are starting to approach, you can see our after Chas, our next waypoint is going to be over Pendleton, and then we will probably soon begin our descent. It's probably about time to get our arrival programmed into the FMC. So in Portland, we are expecting runway 28 right. We're going to take the ILS 28 right approach. Excuse me. And as we talked about, I think in our route, we will be on the hood to arrival. We're taking the J Knox, Joke Knox, whatever, transition. And on the ILS, I don't believe we're doing the battle ground transition. We'll just come in from our star. So let's look at what that does for us. So we go Pendleton. Actually, one of the things we can do is if we put this in, send that message, plan view, so I'm going to be here. So next stop is Chas to Pendleton, and then J.K. Knox. Let me compare it to my chart here to make sure that this is right. So J.K. Knox, then next is, right is down here, so we can read that, Mito. From Mito to Bayer to Hood, and Hood is between 10,000 and 50,000 feet, perfect. And then we go to Bull Run. From Bull Run we go to Schaefer, and from Schaefer we expect vectors to our approach. So let me flip over to ILS 28 right. Okay, so OMSI is going to be our initial approach point, and OMSI to Tulloch to the runway. Alright, so that all looks good. We'll execute that. And descend right there on the runway. Perfect. So back out to the map view. Notice it goes after Schaefer. Again, that's because of those radar vectors. And in fact, because this is a simulation, because there isn't actually any ATC online, let's just assume that from, let's see, what point was that? Let's go to our legs here. From Schaefer, let's say we're just cleared direct to OMSI. that. Okay, so that should give us back to plan. Hit Schaefer. Yeah, so after Schaefer, which is that last point in the star, we'll just turn to OMSI to intercept. We should intercept the localizer there. And that'll be above 2,900 feet. And actually, we probably want to be right at 2,900 feet there. Actually, it doesn't matter, because then we'll drop down to 2,000 feet at Tolok, which is where we will intercept the glide slope. It all sounds good when we look at it on paper. Curious what, let's see, no descent pass after Schaefer. It should just continue descending after Schaefer. I'm not sure why I'm saying that, but we'll deal with it when we get there. So that is our descent set. Looks like we are back to progress. Looks like we're about 5 minutes away from Pendleton. Top of descent. We are just about 8 minutes away from top of descent. Clear weather so far into Portland. I'm not sure what the conditions on the ground are yet, but so far a nice night. Alright, we will be back when we're about ready to descend. So one of the things we can do in terms of descent planning as well is to enter the descent winds forecast. This just makes the FMC calculations and predictions a little more accurate. But I have our descent forecast, so we may as well enter it. The 737 FMC just has 3 slots we can put in. So it looks like down to, really including flight level 220, the winds are essentially what they are up here at 360. So I'm just going to put in that flight level 220, and then I have altitudes at 14,000 and 7,000. And that is 285 at 22. 14,000 is 303 at 18. And 7,000 is 292 at 11. So we just execute that, and then it will know kind of where we are. So we are approaching our top of descent here. Let's see, let's descend down to, let's actually give it clearance all the way down to that 3,700 restriction. All the way down to 3,700. Normally there'd be, you'd either put this to the next restriction until you're sure you're going to hit it and all that stuff, and whatever ATC clears you for, but again, no ATC here, so we will just go all the way down to 3,700. And we'll actually say descend now, just to start a little early and give a smoother transition for passengers. So the throttle's coming back, and we will, looks like our descent will be at Mach 0.785 until we hit 279 knots, and we'll descend at 279 knots until we hit Bayer, our next speed restriction. We will need to be down at 270 knots. And we'll keep clearing this message about no descent forecast because that's what it is. 280 knots and Joe Knox, that's fine. Okay. So down we go toward Portland. That's one of the things FMC is complaining about. According to the arrival, we're supposed to be at 280 knots at J Knox. We're 280 knots now, which is fine, but as we descend, that may be dropping, that's why it's complaining. But I think we'll probably be pretty close. So, I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, let's see if we can pick up Portland weather really quick here. They're at 128.35. Still far for the weather. We'll check on that again as we get closer. The other thing we can do during our descent is set our calculate our approach speed. So if we go to our approach ref, we'll do a flaps 40 landing. So our VREF for approach is going to be 141 knots, which means our V approach, you add 5 knots to that, so it will be 146 knots. And the minimums for the ILS 28 right. Let's see. 281 feet, or 250 feet above ground. So let's go to the radio altimeter, and it will be 250 feet. Perfect. So the ILS 28 right is a frequency of 111.3. So our nav radio here will be 111.3. We'll also set that on the other side. 3. And the final approach course is 283. So set that on both sides. 283. Good. Auto brake. We'll use auto brake. 3 or full plane, carrying extra fuel, so low heavy. So approach briefing. Again, this is the Portland ILS runway 28 right approach. Our radios are tuned to 111.3, course 283. Expect to intercept the glide slope tow lock at 2,000 feet, and it looks like for a missed approach we'll make a climb to 600 feet, then make a right turn direct to the battleground VOR up to 4,200 feet. Don't anticipate a go around tonight because we are the only plane in the sky, and I might just have the autopilot take us in so I don't screw it up and ruin the video. Alright, so we're descending. I'll be back in a few minutes when we are closer to the ground. Fire we're about to cross 18,000 feet. Normally air traffic control would give us the altimeter, but I'm hoping we can pick up Portland weather soon. Portland altimeter was 3032, so we will use that until the new weather report comes in. Next clearance is below transition level, so we can actually flip to global altimeter now. So we're in our descent, just came under 20,000 feet, we're still at our whole 280 knots now, which is good. Minimums are set, we know our VREF. Everything's looking good. So 3036 on the altimeter, a little change. Cloud, it sounded like a broken ceiling at about, what was that, 3,800 feet. So I think as we get over Portland, there will be a little cloud layer below us, but that's okay. Below 18,000 feet now. I feel like I've done this earlier, but we'll get the passengers with their seatbelts on. Let's check if everything up here, pressurization is correct, and everything else looks good. No warning lights up here. Well below 240 knots. I'm sorry, flight level 240 Bear. And then have our decel point here because we're going to cross below 10,000 feet where the 250 knot speed limit's in effect. There's a mount hood up, head to the left. Probably why this is called the Hood arrival. You get the nice scenic view of Mount Hood. just about 3 hours into the flight. Expecting to be on the ground in just about 12 minutes now. It's a reasonable time. I do this flight quite often. I mean, in real life, not just the simulator. And that's a decent time for the flight. Clouds here at 12,000 feet. Approach 10,000 feet here. Should start to slow down. Looks like the autopilot's doing a perfect job hitting 250 at 10,000 feet. So this FMC messages, drag required after Schaefer, that's fine. Drag required, it's actually asking for a little drag so we can put our speed brake out to the flight setting. That will slow the aircraft down to the speed that the autopilot wants us to be. Which at the moment is 240. Under control. Probably bring the spoiler up. See how it likes that. Okay, also under 10,000 feet, we'll hit the landing lights, so any other planes in the area can see us. Those clouds here, they're not showing up as containing any real moisture. Weather radar is still on, so we don't need to worry about icing or anything like that. So I believe the Schaefer point out here is essentially the last waypoint of the arrival of the star, so we will probably consider that where we start turning into final, so we'll go flaps 1 at that point. these clouds. Okay, so we're 24 miles from the runway. We're going to go flaps 1. That will actually drop our speed down. Let's give ourselves a little bit of help slowing down. Intercept at 2,000, barring any constraints, so it'll keep us above 2,900 at OMSI, but then we'll be able to drop down to 2,000. It's actually reasonably turbulent coming into Portland tonight. Let's help ourselves with more speed brake. Let's go flaps 5. Clouds, this looks like it's smoothing out reasonably nicely. I say as we get blown around it. Let's bring in the speed brakes. Bumpy flight in for the passengers tonight. To check with Vareck and see if it was actually bumpy. Although he was arriving a couple hours later because that ground delay, so who knows. Speed is all over the place. Alright, we have a visual of the field. We're going 28 right, so it'll be this runway right here. There's localizer live, so we will go on the localizer. Approaching, let's go arm approach mode. On second autopilot. Still a bit fast fast, but it's okay. We are on glide slope and localizer, so let's go gear down. And flaps 10. Flaps 15. Start switches to continuous. Landing lights are on. Speed brake armed. Landing flaps. Still having trouble. Let's go down to VREF of, what was that, 146. Flaps 40. This approach altitude will be 4,200. Okay. It's 500 above.
Approaching minimums.
We look a tad bit to the right, but that's because minimums, yeah, we're landing. Flight simulators, magnetic variations are a little off from
100.
real life. Okay, we're landing.
50. 30. 20. 10.
There's wheels down. I'll disconnect. Reversers. Try to stay on the runway here. Reversers out, manual braking. And slow down. Turn off at the end of the runway here. Alright, welcome to Portland. That was 3 hours, 12 minutes, and we have 15.3 fuel. Just make a note of that. 312 and 15.3. Our flight plan, estimated based on winds and everything, 3 hours, 10 minutes. We were 3 hours, 12 minutes, so I'd say pretty good. The real world is never quite as we forecasted. So on the ground, taxi lights on, landing lights off, engine ignition off, and start the APU. Lights to steady. Anything else I'm forgetting here? Speed brakes all the way down. Motor brakes off. Probe heat. off. And flaps all the way up. It's probably quicker to click on flap 0 there. Okay, flaps all the way up. And that weather radar off so we don't fry the people in the terminal. And terrain off. Talking to our flight directors. And we taxi to the gate. The gate for this flight was D7, which I'm not quite sure where it is, but let's say... Well, I might have a rough idea of where it is. Actually, yeah, we probably should have turned there already. We'll see what happens. It's not at the end, it's going to be... Yeah, it's this one right over here. So let's see if we can actually turn into that. So on this turn. It's this turn here. It's not very far until I stop. It's actually not too bad. Stop. Okay, parking brake on, APU generators on, APU bleed on, isolation valve open, then we can turn off the engines. Alright, engines off, let passengers out of their seats. Parking brake set, electrical power, we're good to go. Start levers cut off. Belts off. Anti-collision lights off. We can turn the fuel pumps off, but we'll leave one on for the APU. Electric hydraulic pumps go off. Research stays on. Air conditioning auto. Sure the transponder is off. And sorry for zooming around here. Ground connections, get the wheel chocks in place, ground power connected. Now turn the parking brakes off, turn ground power on. Ground power on, you can turn the APU off. So now we can say the passengers are leaving, which means I have to open the door. You should hear our happy passengers.
Bye.
One thing we should have already done is turn off our taxi lights so we didn't blind the marshal coming in. Alright, well that is us at Portland. Brakes are still smoking, they're unloading all the luggage. And so that was a reasonably successful flight. Thanks for watching, and we will see you all next time.